You know, they say a lot about politics, and they say that it can bring out the worst in people, and it can be an ugly business and a blood sport and all of those sorts of things. But really, you know, what I found is that it can really bring out the best in people. I mean, I saw people rise up and stretch themselves to the limits of what they could do and give you the shirt off their back and do anything that they could to help. It brought out great ideas, it brought out fresh energy, fresh initiative, people that came alongside that said, you know, I think I can make a contribution here and I want to stretch myself and learn and grow. It brought out the best in people, and I really think that that is a worthwhile endeavor. When you can bring out the best in others and others can bring out the best in you, you've really done something amazing. And really, that's what I took away from this experience. So as luck would have it, or life would have it, it didn't take me too long to, I guess, land on my feet. I had one day, the day after the election, where I sat at home and rested and just sort of cleaned up my office and went through some things and sent some emails. Went back to work at the chamber the next day, and by noon that day had a different job, and started that job this week. So life is an adventure, but you know what? The thing is that during the last number of years, through my work at the chamber and through my political work with the town of Penhold and as a candidate, I've had the privilege of developing some really robust networks. And so the new job that I'm doing, which is business retention, expansion, and investment around Central Alberta, I'm going to be able to drive around the region like I love so much and go and meet with businesses and help them be ready to grow and identify opportunities to expand their businesses, and I'm really excited about that. So the election was a very interesting process. I mean, when we say the election, it's actually more like the campaign because there's that whole time leading up to the election, and not just the 28 days from when the writ is dropped up to when the election day actually takes place, because by the time the writ is dropped, you've really done a lot of work. And certainly for us and our team, you know, I made the decision to actually run on April 2nd, 2011. And then on May 23rd, our team had our first campaign cabinet meeting, and the team kind of came together. And through the summer we formulated some plans and stuff like that, and then September we kind of hit the ground, and by December we were door knocking and going hard at it. And by the time the writ was dropped, you know, we were already in a well-developed rhythm. And the best part about having the writ drop is that up until the writ dropped, of course, I still had my full-time work at the chamber, plus I was serving on town council and in Penhold, and so trying to keep all those plates spinning was a little bit of a challenge. And even though it was a very busy time, and you worked from sun up until sundown every day during that 28-day period, it was much more manageable than trying to do all three things at once. So that was good. Our campaign, some of the experiences that we had, I mean, we would always, after we would have teams go out door knocking, we would meet at a coffee shop afterwards and have what we called a yoo-hoo boo-hoo session, and we would tell our best door knocking experience that day and our worst door knocking experience that day. And oftentimes the best door knocking experiences for myself and for the reports from the other teams that would go out were when we would be able to inspire a non-voter to say, you know what, I'm going to vote this time. You're right, I need to get involved. It's my province too, and I do care, and to decide to vote. So those were oftentimes the very best experiences. Some of the bad experiences were just, and one of the most amazing stories was about a family that I met with, sat down. They had been in contact with actually all of the candidates and their MLA for quite some time, trying to get some answers about their situation, injured worker situation, and just running up against a system again where they just couldn't get any response or help, and they just really felt like there was some injustice there that needed to be dealt with. And I went and met with this family, and you know, as difficult as the injured worker situation was, and the systemic abuse that they suffered and the mistreatment that they suffered, what really moved me and touched my heart was they talked about the family stresses and how difficult it had been on their relationships and on them personally. And I made a commitment to them to advocate on their behalf and to try and bring some changes. For what they had been through, they really needed someone to come alongside them. And regardless of not being elected, it is my intention to go forward and advocate on their behalf. And I'm going to work with our newly elected MLA and advocate to anybody in government that I need to help these folks get some answers and some justice for their situation. I think in terms of the outcome of the election in general, you know, more so than I've ever seen in any other election, people seem to be voting as a blocking gesture. There was fear on one side and anger on the other, and it just depended on whether your fear outweighed your anger. It seemed like for a lot of people that they felt like there were two options, and either they were going to vote for one because they were angry at the other group, or they were going to vote for the other because they were afraid of the newcomer. And many people that we talked to said, you know, like, we think you're the best candidate for the job, we think you'd be great, but we have to vote this way because we have to stop this from happening. And I've also talked to a lot of people since the election that feel disappointed in how they voted. They feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, I wasted my vote and whatever. But you know what, nobody has a crystal ball, and so you've got to do what you think is right at the time, and it's our job now to say that ship has sailed and on we go. You know, it's been commented that, particularly here in central Alberta, that we now have this island of PC government representation in the city of Red Deer, and yet all around being represented by the opposition. And it's been commented that that means we don't have any representation, and it's going to hurt us. We won't have an inroad into government. And I really struggle with that concept and the thinking that if you don't elect the government as your representative, that you are somehow disadvantaged. I think that is part of the problem that we've had with all of the pork barrel politics and cronyism that we've experienced, is that people believe that if I've got a government MLA, I've got a special inroad and they're going to do special things for me and I'll be able to get somewhere. But if I don't have government, I'm somehow at some sort of strategic disadvantage. Well, you are supposed to be able to go to your MLA regardless of which party they're affiliated with and whether they are in the governing party or an opposition party, and they are supposed to be able to fight for you and the needs of your region, the needs of your community, or the needs of your family are supposed to be addressed through your democratic process, regardless of who your MLA is affiliated with in terms of party politics.